We'll now resume with number 3. On number 3, we looked at all the choices. The fact that it was shiny was a factor, but not a strong one. That it was glass was a good option. That it was scratchy didn't make any sense, so we got rid of that completely. That it's very dirty doesn't fit for being a non-scratch scrubbing side. Actually, very dirty is a possibility, but everything considered, the best choice turned out to be that it's glass. They recognized in the passage that it was glass, so we're going to go with B. For number 4, why cast iron skillets need to be dried completely. Let's go back to the passage for this also. Now, on this question, number 10, we have clues for cast iron skillets. Do not wash cast iron skillets. Iron plus water equals rust. That would make sense for they dry immediately and they need to be dried completely. So we're going to go back to number 4. They're heavy. Doesn't really make sense as far as why they need to be dried. They will rust is a real possibility. That's what we saw. But remember, we need to read all choices. They have to be put away. All of them have to be put away. So that's not a good choice. All the food must be removed. This doesn't have to do with drying. So this is not a good choice. Our best answer is clearly B. Finally, number 5. It says not to start the dishwasher until after counters and everything are clean. What are possible reasons for this? Possible reasons for this. Let's go back to the passage and see if we saw any clues having to do with when we should do the dishes. I don't see anything here. We didn't notice any as we looked earlier. Once again, nothing that talks about this. So now we're going to go, and we should have looked at probably at the front of the passage, and it said things that the dishwasher should not be done until after these things are done. So this probably would have been at the beginning of the passage if there were a clue. So now we just need to use logical reasons. The dishwasher won't start until those tasks are completed. We don't have any reason to believe the dishwasher won't start because you haven't cleaned other things. The dishwasher must be started before the floor is swept. Once again, you can turn on a dishwasher at any time, so that doesn't make sense. Next, the person in the kitchen may need to complete other tasks in a particular order before it starts. That's a possibility, but it's unlikely that one would see that on the instructions on how to use the dishwasher. So we're going to probably say no here. There might be a slight chance, or probably not. Complete other tasks. Next one, additional items may need to go in. This is probably our best answer. Why you would do all the other cleaning first, because you might need to put other items in the dishwasher. We might even think about C and D. With this one, we don't know for sure about other tasks and how important they are, but we do know that it's always important that you include everything you need to wash. Everybody's either loaded the dishwasher or started doing dishes, and then at the last minute, someone else brought in a dirty dish, and you had to do some starting over. So these are great examples of how we would use reading, using these strategies on CRCT for reading. Let's look at some other subject areas. Next, we're going to look at a social studies item. First step, we're going to read the question first and circle the key words. How did mechanization of farming further contribute to the migration from rural areas? Again, I'm using square, circle, underline, whatever it takes to pay close attention to the question. Now I'm going to read the entire passage. During World War I, Georgia farmers experienced much prosperity. After the war, the demand for agricultural products decreased, and many left their farms for opportunities in the cities. Now, the question is, how did the mechanization of farming further contribute to the migration from rural areas? Key things we need to understand that mechanization means using machinery, and then that migration means movement, people actually moving from place to place, and it's from rural areas, from the country where the farms are located. 1, does it make sense that the machinery was too expensive to buy? No, because we said the mechanization of farming means that they did buy the machinery and replace and put those on the farms. Next, sharecropper labor was no longer needed. This is a real possibility because mechanization means you're doing machines instead of as many people. And sharecropper labor is definitely people. C, farmers were able to produce more crops in less time. True, mechanization would let them produce more crops in less time in most cases. But that wouldn't directly contribute to the migration. The fact that they're producing more crops doesn't mean the people need to leave the land. but instead that if it's taking the place of the people. So we could say that B and C are possibilities, but right now B seems like a stronger choice. We'll leave this open. More crops in less time. Cotton crops became the predominant agricultural product or agricultural export. Now, this is also true. More mechanization means they were able to produce more cotton. However, how did that directly impact migration? This would not be a factor here because it doesn't directly talk about migration in from the cities. So if we look at these two choices, C, farmers are able to produce more crops in less time. This would be another true statement, but it's not as direct on migration. Specific to migration, which talks about the movement of people, is the issue of sharecroppers. Sharecropper labor was no longer needed because there would be more and more labor that was taken care of by the machines rather than needing more and more people to do that labor. So my best choice would be B or C, and I'm going to go with B, and I think that's a logical choice. Let's go to the science item. 2 jars are placed inside an insulated box. Here's the question. One jar contains ice water, other contains hot soup. Hot soup and ice water. What happens to what will happen to the 2 liquids? What will happen? 2 jars are placed inside an insulated box. So we have 2 jars inside of an insulated box. One is ice water, the other one hot soup. What will happen? First thing I'm going to do is think about the key words. Ice water is going to be cold water. Hot soup is going to be hot water. They're put inside an insulated box. So I need to think about what happens with the heat transfer between the hot item and the cold item in the same box. Both the hot soup and the ice water will gain heat. Doesn't make sense because we know that heat will travel from lesser concentration to greater concentration. In other words, it's heat that is going to move to a colder area. So the hot soup will not get hotter. It will not gain heat. Both the hot soup and the ice water will lose heat. That's a possibility because the hot soup is going to lose heat to the ice water, but if it does so, the ice water is going to heat up more. So really, that's not a choice because the ice water will not lose heat. So on the first one, the problem was that we said both will gain heat. In this case, the fact that it said ice water will lose heat. On part C, the hot soup will gain heat and the ice water will lose heat. We thought about the fact that the principle here is that heat will actually travel from the hot area to the cold area. So the hot soup will actually lose heat and the ice water would have to gain heat until you reach equilibrium. So C is not a good answer. Finally, the hot soup will lose heat and the ice water will gain heat. In the process of going through this question, we've thought about the principle under study, the idea that the hot item loses heat and that the cold item gains heat. So our best answer is choice D. Now let's go on to our next section. This next section looks at a mathematics sample, a couple of mathematics sample questions, and we'll go ahead and do one of these in the interest of time. First, let's find the question. If he reads the same number of pages, same number, this is important, same number of pages each day, each is always important, how many pages per day does he need to read to finish? Need to read to finish. Now let's go on to the passage. Lucas has to read a total of 164 pages in a novel for his English class. He has already read 36 pages, already read. He has 4 more days to complete the assignment. And once again, the question was, if he reads the same number of pages each day, how many pages per day does he need to finish the assignment? Let's start by looking at the total. He had 164 pages total to read. He has already read 36 pages, so I'm going to subtract off 36. So that's 128 pages that he has left to read. Then they tell us that he has 4 more days to complete the assignment. Pages to read in 4 days. So we're going to say in 4 days. Our question asks us how many pages per day does he need to read to finish the assignment. Now first, when he said already read, we can tell that that can be subtracted off of 164. So this is how many he has left to read. Then it tells us there's 4 days to complete the assignment. We understand that division is actually the separation into equal groups. We have to have equal groups of pages because it says 4 days. Because it's 4 days, equal groups, and we have a total amount that we're separating into equal groups, a logical choice would be to use division to solve this problem. So we could say 4 days, and if he has 128 pages left to read, if we divide 4 in, we should be able to find how many pages he'll read per day. 4 goes into 12 3 times. We subtract 12, get a remainder of 8. 4 goes into 8 2 times. We subtract 8, get a remainder of 0. So our answer is that he needs to read 32 pages per day. Now let's look at our choices and consider them. When we consider our choices, one thing we're going to do is think about what makes sense, as well as thinking about the math that we've done. First of all, does it make sense to read 5 pages a day for 4 days? 4 times 5 is only 20. That's nowhere near the number that we need. 32 pages a day is the number that we came up with, and we can check this by saying, okay, 32 pages over 4 days, that's 8, 128. So we think this is probably correct. 36 pages a day is not correct. That's too many. 41 pages a day is not correct either. Because we have already done our multiplication, we can see that the correct answer is 32 pages per day.